Welcome to Catholic Mom Mindset, a daily show where you learn to walk closely with the Holy Spirit so you can live the life God is calling you to. I'm your host, Sterling Jaquith. Let us begin. Talking about understanding the temperament types of your kids so that you can better parent them and prepare them for the world that they're going to live in. So, Temperaments is based on a book series, The Temperaments God Gave You, The Temperaments God Gave Your Kids, and The Temperaments God Gave Your Spouse. I believe there are 3 separate books, but you don't need to read the books. You can just Google for temperament types and take a short quiz and find out what yours is. And a lot of people have a prominent or a dominant type and then a secondary type as well. And the 4 types are sanguine. Sanguines are the social ones, the energetic ones. I am a sanguine, and they tend to have a lot of ideas and burst on things. They tend to be extroverts, and they are often well rewarded by society for being sociable. And I think this is really important when it comes to the temperament types, is understanding that there aren't better types or worse types, but your type will be treated better or worse based on what society, their culture around you values. And I think that is the conversation that's really important to have with your kids. So sanguines, and then choleric. And I actually looked up the word choleric online to get the definition and then also the pronunciation, because a lot of people say choleric, and I Googled it and it came up choleric. That's how they pronounce it. That's how I heard it in my mind for a long time until someone said choleric to me, and then it just like threw me after that, and I never knew which way to say it. So there may still be 2 ways to say it, but I'm going to say choleric. And these are the ones that are really like headstrong or strong-willed. They tend to be leaders. You might think of them as more of like a military type. They are ambitious. They're good at problem solving, but sometimes they squash people. They don't always think of other people's feelings. They don't always have a good read on the room or the social situations. And so they're so busy leading that they're not necessarily looking at the people around them. And, you know, this personality type is really rewarded in some industries and really not rewarded or punished in other industries. So just helping your kids understand, if this is their primary type, it's extremely valuable, but it just needs to be wielded correctly, which I suppose we could say for all of them. But this one, you know, if you come in too strong, too aggressive, and you're kind of a jerk face to everyone, well, it takes a lot of repair to recover that afterwards. Then there's phlegmatic, and phlegmatics are kind of the like steady, easygoing, don't rock the boat. They tend to be quiet and calm and relaxed. They tend to be very diplomatic. They tend to be the peacemakers. They kind of want everyone to get along. And sometimes the weakness of this temperament type is that they just hang out, right? They can often be labeled as lazy. And just imagine that. I mean, this is a mindset podcast, and the messages that your children receive in their childhood often stay with them for a very long time. And so we want to be really careful about saying that someone's lazy, and maybe your kid is just phlegmatic and you need to learn how to work with them on that. Like how do phlegmatics find success? How can we play to their strengths? And so, I think this is one that often is frustrating for parents. Or it's either that the kid is easygoing and they ignore the kid, or the kid looks like he doesn't care about anything and is lazy, and then gets labeled that way and treated that way. And then that will just kind of create a self-fulfilling prophecy and, a spiral on that for both the parents and the kiddo. And the 4th type is melancholic. And melancholics, I think, are probably the most misunderstood one, because when we think about how they are, it's often that we think that they're very negative. They're kind of the Eeyores of the 4 temperament types. And it's often because they are extremely cautious and they're very thoughtful. So they're the ones who are like, we need to bring an umbrella because it might rain. right? And their brains are just overly fixated on problem solving and predicting disasters and predicting things that, they want to avoid. And this type, I think, really requires parents to help them have good self-esteem. The sanguines are going to go into the world and be bubbly and fun and popular, and they're going to make friends, okay? The cholerics likely are going to be leaders. They're going to be good at school. They're going to get good jobs. And so the world will kind of reward them in that way. Phlegmatics often fold in to any group that they're in, and people just like them. They're kind of the chameleons. And so in that way, they don't necessarily get a lot of negative feedback, but they do from their parents, and they do sometimes from jobs if they're not performing the way that the parents and the bosses want. But I think melancholics get the most negative feedback because they often can be really prone to depression and moodiness and perfectionism, and they're very pessimistic. And so that begins to show, and then we tell them that's who they are, and then they do more of that. And so when I Googled 4 temperament types, and then I always click images because people just spend a lot of time and very thoughtfully create graphics around information. And infographics can be such a visual way to understand something more deeply. So I would encourage you to do that when you're trying to learn something. But the strengths listed were thoughtful, considerate, organized, an excessive planner, schedule-oriented, highly creative in poetry and in art and in invention, good at preventing problems. And so my oldest daughter is very melancholic, and it's difficult because she's often kind of the naysayer, the one who, will take them to Silverwood. Here is this incredible water park and roller coaster park. And, the kids will all come home and she'll say, oh, but the weather wasn't right, or this happened. She'll just give me the negative things. And I've just learned that instead of being upset with her about that or telling her that that's bad, just really celebrating the part of her personality, this inclination that is so wonderful. And she's the one to make a schedule for things. She's the one to make a checklist. She's the one that can think of all the things we need to remember to pack, and I love that about her, and just helping her to love that about her is really my work as a parent. And so my oldest is melancholic. My second is sanguine. Jury's out on the 7-year-old. She's kind of a mix of sanguine choleric, I think. I'm not sure which one's going to be the dominant type. And, it's hard to type the kids when they're really little. You can see some things coming through, but I find that it is past the age of 7 that I see a lot more clearly what their personality type is. So this is just one system, and it's helpful to know your temperament type, your husband's, and your kids. But in my opinion, also just like really educating the kids around what these mean, why it's fantastic that they're this type, and how you can really amplify the things that they're good at and then give them tools for the things that they're not good at. So a little bit longer today, you guys. I love you. Thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed day. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Catholic Mom Mindset. To learn more about growing closer to the Holy Spirit, check out our free resources at madeforgreatness.co. Thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed day.